listening to the Saskatchewan Trucking Association's Driving Forward, a podcast designed for the industry by the industry. Buckle up to discuss all things trucking with very special guests. So kick in the cruise control as we drive the Saskatchewan economy forward.
Welcome to Driving Forward, the podcast series by the Saskatchewan Trucking Association. We have a very special guest today, Mr. Rob Ruiters. He is the Bison Transport Manager for Saskatchewan, and he's also the SDA executive member, the board chair. You are a CTA board member. You have your commercial driver's license, so you have a big long list of things as far as qualifications go that makes you very much certified to be part of the Saskatchewan trucking landscape, and we're very happy to have you here today. So if there's anything I missed, I apologize now. All right, and you can fill it in later. So anyway, we're here today to kind of talk to Rob about the trucking industry in Saskatchewan and fill in a lot of details. Rob's also going to be moving into away from being the board chair, I think in July.
Yeah,
July it is, and you're also looking at retirement.
correct.
So I'll say right now, congratulations.
And to you as well.
And yes, not that we're going to retire in the same spot, but we're definitely
Maybe go to the same coffee row.
That's exactly it. We can talk about politics. So
Yeah.
anyway, we're very excited to have you here today. So we're just going to dive into it. Maybe you can explain a little bit of Rob, like yourself, and how you got to different spots as far as this career that you've chosen.
Thanks, George. It's been a journey for sure. As a younger fellow, when I finished my school in Ontario, there was no doubt in my mind I knew what I wanted to do. And as soon as I got out of school, I put my application in to join the RCMP. Back then, it was quite a lengthy process to go through their hiring processes.
I can imagine.
And then, of course, you didn't know if you'd get in anyway. So I figured I had to go get a job, a full-time job while I was waiting. And I got on with a local lumber company in Southern Ontario. They were a chain there at the time, and got my class 3.
Okay.
And started driving for them, doing deck loads, lumber, shingles, the usual thing. Did that for a while, and then moved on to a company delivering cylinders, oxygen, propane, acetylene. Did that for about 2 years, George, before I got my call, and away I went to depot to my RCMP training. So at that time, I thought that was it. That was my trucking career. I'm done. Did nothing against the trucking industry. I didn't look back at that time. Young fella, I got a job that I knew would pay me, and it was what I wanted to do. And away I went. Went to 1982. I went to Regina. My basic training out of there. I posted to Manitoba. Lovely spots from there. I went to Carmen, Manitoba, Flin Flon, Winnipeg. While I was in Winnipeg, with our drug unit there in Winnipeg, I developed a criminal interdiction program, which is a program just detects traveling criminals on the highway. Through that, it included a move in 2001 to Regina. Finished my career in Regina in 2014 as a staff sergeant with 32 years service. But going back to tie it into the trucking, as I mentioned, the criminal interdiction program I was running was detect traveling criminals, both passenger and commercial vehicles. The passenger vehicles were teaching law enforcement what to look for. They stop cars all day long. That's a comfort zone. They have no issues with that. Commercial trucks, on the other hand, I think a lot of your listeners know that police officers don't spend a lot of time with commercial trucks, just not in their comfort zone. So that was a challenge. So I had to develop some specialized training for law enforcement on how to detect, not only raise their comfort levels in dealing with commercial trucks and realizing that, they won't bite you and you're not going to get hurt, and you still get a birthday every year.
There you go. They're just big.
They're big, yeah. Right? Also, and what to look for as far as traveling criminals specific to commercial vehicles. As we know, commercial vehicles are known for carrying large commodities. They're also, in the smuggling world, they carry the larger amounts of contraband and drugs. So it was important that we have that training. I had a partners that in the U.S., out of the U.S. DOT, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. They ran the U.S. program for commercial vehicle interdiction. So I worked a lot with them, very cooperatively with them. We both instructed law enforcement throughout Canada, throughout the U.S. When 9/11 came around, branched out a little bit, started talking to the trucking industry on public safety, national security issues, cargo theft. And we talked to insurance companies, various provincial associations, the STA being one, the Canadian Trucking Alliance. As a matter of fact, contributed to, there was a threat assessment that the CTA financed into cargo theft that the different associations are part of. So that was my foray into the trucking industry. Little did I know that a lot of the contacts I made at the time, I'd end up working with or for.
Oh, really?
After my career. So that's the connection got me into dealing with the trucking industry. Towards the end of my policing career, they wanted me to run an international program. They wanted me to move to Ottawa.
Not interested.
I was quite settled. My family was quite settled. I wasn't ready to move, so I had to start looking at other options if I wasn't going to move. Dennis Prudhomme, might be a familiar name. He used to be a board chair with SAS Trucking Association. Also used to own Prudhomme Trucks. He offered me a job as a business development manager with his newly formed company that brought in foreign skilled workers. It was certainly something different, if that's what I was looking for. Bringing in foreign skilled workers and working with the temporary worker, foreign worker program, much more regulated back then, much more oversight back then. But dealing with changing rules and changing regulations that goes on with, and still today when it comes with dealing with bringing in foreign workers, I grew a little frustrated, and after 18 months, I'd had enough of that, and I was ready to move on. Some of the contacts I'd made, we talked about some of the trucking contacts, two of them in particular, Rob Penner, who's retired now, the retired past president of Bison Trucking, Bison Transport, and Garth Pitzel. Garth Pitzel's the vice president of Bison Safety Program, but he was also a member of the Saskatchewan Trucking Association. So I got to know them. The opportunity came through them to become the manager with Bison here in Saskatchewan. They needed a Regina manager, and 11 years later, here I am.
There you go.
And it was actually Garth who got me onto the SAS Trucking Association board in 2016, and I've had various positions since that time, and now as a board chair.
Yeah. We're very happy to have you here.
That's it. That's it in a nutshell.
That's it in a nutshell. Well, I'm going to have to personally thank Garth for that, because I know we really appreciate you having on board. So.
He's not going to know. I said something nice about him, is he?
But we won't mention anything to him. So, like I say, I do like Garth. So that is a very wide spectrum of the trucking industry, basically from day one. Even though you didn't realize you were going to extend into the trucking industry before you became an RCMP officer, but. So, maybe, are there any changes, or is there anything, like security risks or like immigration and whatnot? Is there anything that has changed from when you first were exposed to the trucking industry, even in the RCMP, right through till to now?
Well, in short answer, no, because back in the days when I was talking to law enforcement about about detecting traveling criminals and the risks and the threats that were out there, in particular about the trucking industry, used to say that the trucking industry is the most at-risk industry in North America to being infiltrated by criminals, smugglers, organized crime, national security concerns. Because the reality is, and I recognize that since that time, maybe we've brought in some more regulations regarding obtaining a commercial driver's license. But the reality is, someone still could come get a commercial driver's license today and be driving tomorrow. So that is certainly a concern in the industry. The other side is it's true today as it was 30 years ago. The best trucking companies, from the top to the bottom of the industry, is pretty diverse.
I agree.
The top companies, right? They police themselves really well. They do a good job. And as you work your way down, there's some maybe some not so nice companies. Maybe at the bottom you start getting those unethical, unprofessional companies, and a lot of us wonder, how do they stay in business?
Because they cut corners. Yeah.
Drivers, we always hear for years, I've been hearing there's a shortage of drivers. There's not a shortage of drivers in this country. There's a shortage of good drivers in this country. And just like I said about the trucking list, it's the same with drivers.
Yeah.
The difference between the top professional drivers at the top of the list and the ones at the bottom of the list are pretty diverse. And as you go down the list, it's the same thing. So the problem is then and is today is as you go down that list, if I have a commodity, if I have a commodity I want a truck company to move, legal or illegal,
Yeah.
I will find a company to move it. Might not be the ones at the top of the list, if you gather what I'm saying. And look at the other side. If I need somebody to move it, no matter how bad my abstract is, no matter how many times I study and can't pass that urine test, somebody's going to hire me.
Yes.
So when those are the things, those companies at the bottom, those drivers at the bottom, they were the things that used to keep me awake at nights years ago when I was in policing, and the things that still keep me awake at night now that I'm in the trucking industry. So that's why I want to retire and catch up on my sleep.
Well, I don't blame you. Yes. Yes, at the STA we do realize there are some really good companies out there, and there are definitely some bad actors. So
And there's much more traffic, much more companies on the road
Yes.
today. And there's a lot difference as far as oversight than there used to be.
yeah. So I know, like, we just had the budget come through just this week, and we're really happy to see that there's more funds going into like the highway patrol and inspections and that kind of thing. But we could always use more, right? Because I agree. Like, on average, there's like 1,000 trucks go through Regina every day, right? And they're not all Saskatchewan based, obviously. There's all the different provinces in the U.S., but that's a lot of trucks. When you only have a handful of people in the province to turn around and pull units over to look for contraband or labor trafficking or whatever the case may be, just check to make sure that they're legal to be in Canada itself. That's a tough one to kind of work on. So.
Well, we've had a real change in that regards too, because I will say that when you talk about changes, when it comes to security and safety concerns, so once upon a time, there's some people that have been driving a long time and say there was never a lot of enforcement as far as with commercial trucks. There's a lot of drivers I've spoken to who says you never get stopped by police. If it's not the scale. There was a time when almost every police department had a dedicated commercial enforcement unit.
Okay.
Right? They don't have those now. You got your Sask Highway and you have your scales, and that's not unique to Saskatchewan. That's right across. And so when you have dedicated people today, you say, we use the scales as an example. You have people they're knowledgeable about the industry. They're doing enforcement, but the reality is, when a truck pulls in, they're looking at hours of service. They're looking at equipment,
maintenance,
things like detecting other criminality. A lot of times doesn't even enter the thought process, right? So those are concerning. And really, even the unsafe vehicles themselves that are driving on the roads today, and the levels of experience or perceived experience that a lot of drivers have today
That's true.
needs to be.
Yeah. There's there's definitely a large population out there that feel that there needs to be more training as far as for commercial drivers or whatnot. So how do you feel about that? Do you think that's right?
Well,
Being a person from Bison that has a massive amount of drivers that you see just in your own company.
yeah, we do. So Bison, I mean, I will say Bison has been North America's safest large fleet for a long, long time. So one of the reasons why they appealed to me. Training is important. It's always important, and not just initial training, but ongoing training.
True.
I think the more training you do, the better it is, obviously. But especially because we're entrusting these people on the road with this heavy equipment, with our families, because our families share those roads, and that's important. So the main priority for our drivers at the start of their day is to get home safely at the end of their day, and that should be for every employee. It was the same. We had the same mindset in my policing days, right? Because we shared the roads, and it should be for anybody that works on our highways, and it should be for all the for all the trucking industry folks as well. The concern I have is training's important. Canada, we're really good at regulating things. We have all kinds of regulations. We just don't do a great job in making sure that we're following up on
it's the enforcement. The enforcement part of
right?
it. Yeah.
And then when we do, how much of a deterrent is there?
Yeah.
So those are concerns, and I think if we get out in front of that, when companies are starting, they want to operate in this province, I think there should be certain benchmarks they have to check off and show first, but to show us that they're trusted to be on the road handling this equipment, and all the people that work for them.
No, and that does make sense. That makes sense.
And it's easier to stay in front of or on top of if you start early.
Yes.
Than trying to play catch up after all these new companies have started. They're all out there working, and then you got to try and catch up and try to ascertain their safety. Because let's not forget that we talk Bison, for example, and the safety is part of our culture. It's not cheap.
No, I don't imagine it is. Training's expensive. And
training,
equipment,
safety,
repairs,
and compliance is one of the biggest costs in trucking today.
Yeah.
So if you're a company that's looking to make a buck, you're an unethical carrier, your labor practices are suspect, your filing your taxes is a little suspect, or one of the first things you're going to do if you're out just to make a buck and you're not worried about doing the right thing is to cut corners or cut back on your safety and your compliance.
Yeah.
And so then you start having your equipment's a little suspect. Then we hear about some of this equipment that starts falling apart on the highway. And so then your equipment's not suspect, is not safe. So your drivers aren't safe.
Yeah.
Well, now because your equipment's not safe and your drivers aren't safe, now my drivers aren't safe.
Yeah.
And then your family or my family's not safe. And then it starts to affect all of us. And so it's the ramifications are huge. And we're in Saskatchewan, we know that. We've unfortunately seen that.
Yeah. So what are your ideas as far as, like you said, it's expensive. It can be very expensive to turn around and make sure that you're doing things safe. So what are some of the ideas you think maybe a smaller company could turn around and implement or do to turn around and, meet more of that safety regulations?
So safety's the industry has come a long way as far as
that's good to hear.
Security and safety practices. I know when I first started talking to going out meeting from an enforcement standpoint, I couldn't believe how trusting the industry was.
Yeah.
I mean, lots not locked.
Really?
Maybe not well lit, and and you're wondering why people are stealing your freight or coming into your yard. So the industry's come a long way. And the biggest thing is just changing of attitudes. It's not just the safety, but there's a security side as well. With smaller companies, you've got to think safety, and let's face it, it doesn't matter what line of work you're in today. If liability should be one of the first things you think about in everything you do. And liability alone means you have certain responsibilities if you're running an industry or any kind of a business to make sure you're doing it safely, you're doing it due diligence. For the life of me, and maybe it's my background, but I just can't think why I would let anybody be driving with thousands of pounds down the highway without feeling relatively safe that they know what they're doing, they're well trained. Because the other side is every truck going down the road is a rolling resume, is a rolling billboard of this company that you want to hire. So that's why you get a lot of the legitimate trucking companies. If heaven forbid, if someone has an accident, they got a dent, whatever, they get that fixed right away, because it's not good business to be seen driving down the road with equipment that's falling apart.
Yeah.
So as far as the legitimate professional trucking companies, they, as I said before, they do a really good job of policing themselves. The smaller companies, very, very important to get for our industry. The trucking industry was built on the small trucking companies.
Yeah.
But the responsibility, small or big, is not shirked off because of your size. You can't just.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So
you got to follow the regulations.
if you're gonna hire drivers, make sure they're trained. Make sure you train them. If you develop them, it's important, because hopefully they're going to be driving for the next 40, 50 years.
Yep, that's what everybody wants, that longevity and that loyalty. But you have to treat employees right. I agree.
Absolutely,
I agree
absolutely.
with that, so.
That's, it goes back to, again, that diversity we find between the top companies and the bottom of the food chain.
Yeah, the lower end of it, top and lower. So, you know what? We talked about retirement or whatnot earlier, and so I just want to kind of ask your opinion. I know the average age of a truck driver right now is roughly that 50 years old, right? Which is up there, right? They say less than 13% of all truck drivers are 30 and under. So eventually we're going to have a problem. So do you have any, I don't know, words of wisdom to anybody that's maybe a younger person, a younger employee, right? Or a younger person that wants to get into the career as a truck driver? And, it kind of, I don't know, keep in mind that, the newer generation of employees they've been raised a little bit differently. And let's be honest, they've probably been taught safety is an important aspect of getting into employment. Whereas maybe you and me, that really wasn't as stressed when we were in high school.
But it's important today, and it's important, but that's okay, because it's important to the industry.
That's true.
So just as it may have taken a different path for you and I, but the industry also took that path. So they're where they need to be. I think the problem the trucking has always had is the sell job. The industry, if I was talking to a young person today, I'd say there are way more opportunities in this industry than you can even begin to imagine. And I don't think they truly understand all the opportunities out there. I mean, they think of a truck driver, or they think of someone working a forklift at the warehouse that's loading and unloading. And those are great jobs. You just think of driving. The advancements in technology today that are in these trucks.
That's true.
I mean, if you're into techie stuff, this is for you. Not to mention the sheer joy of getting out of the office and getting on the road, and the freedom that comes with that, and seeing the community, seeing the country. But there's all kinds of management jobs. There's all kinds of office jobs. I mean, whether it's sales or it goes on and on. The trucking industry is huge. It's one of the biggest industries we have. So I think young people should take the time to explore the opportunities that are out there. There's more there than they think. And I think they'd be pleasantly surprised by the options.
Yeah, I agree with you. I myself have never been a driver. I've worked in dealerships most of my life, and for the life of me, I know obviously I'm retiring myself, but for the life of me, when I started getting into it, I would have never thought all the different opportunities and advancements, and the financial rewards that you get as well, right? So, but that's a whole different podcast to turn around and discuss. So Rob, let's dive into let's make it a little fun on this. Let's dive into a little bit of retirement. What do you got planned for retirement, if you want to share that with us?
Well, I've already mentioned sleep.
Yeah.
So step back a little bit, sit back, try to catch up on some sleep, but most importantly, to do some serious husbanding and grandparenting. But George, let's not kid ourselves. We're both retiring. We both know in a month it'll be going George who, Rob who. So keeping that in mind, though, I have some self-awareness. I know another month or two into retirement, I'll be trying to fill my days, and so retirement is not necessarily a goodbye. It's a see you later. Who knows?
That's a good way of putting it.
Might run into me as a Walmart greeter, or
there you go.
Doing
handing
something.
Out samples at Costco.
Yeah, one for you, one for me.
Yeah, exactly.
So who knows? I really no plans other than I'm at that stage where it's time
for change.
It's time to sit back, relax, and spend some time with my wife. It's her turn.
Yeah, I agree with that. It sounds like you've had a very busy career for many years.
Yes,
so she probably would appreciate that.
A lot of time from home.
Maybe she won't appreciate that.
Well, she will for the first couple of weeks.
Say, you need to get a
After
job.
that, she'll be calling Bison back and asking if I could have my job back.
Yeah, I'll pay you to take it.
Of that, I have no doubt.
So my wife has mentioned the same thing. So, but no. But I do appreciate the time that you and me have spent together and at the STA. I know you've been a valuable resource. I do not feel that it's going to be Rob who down the road kind of thing.
Well, if you ever put those past chair pictures updated,
I know.
Then you'll know who Rob was.
That was a Susan thing.
Then you'll know who Rob was.
I told her she should put him in here, but in our room here. But anyway, I think your face will be up on our timeline going across. So
lucky you.
We got a couple of good pictures of you, so I'm sure we'll be able to kind of meld that together. But I do want to say thank you very much for taking some time to talk about the trucking industry. Thank you very much for all your contributions as far as the trucking industry goes, not even just the Saskatchewan Trucking Association, and all the time that you've been maybe she didn't appreciate it all the time, every single time, but giving Susan a bit of a push in the right direction to make sure that things get moving in the correct area. So
I can tell you the Sask Trucking Association doesn't need any push or help. I mean, as I tell people, they're the professional part of it. They're very professional. They represent the ethical body of trucking. And they're the professional in the professional trucking industry, and the work they do to advocate for the industry, and whether it's regulatory changes, whether it's emissions, and whether it's driver changes, and working with the government, and working with law enforcement, working with all those things for the betterment of the industry. The industry's in good hands with the Sask Trucking Association, and Susan and her team do a great job.
Yeah,
I agree.
Well, that's good. That's good to hear. So, I will turn around and tell you that on the other side, individuals such as yourself that come from the trucking industry, one thing we recognize here at the STA is we don't work for carrier companies, and we don't exactly know the exact details of what's going on in trucking. And there's individuals like you that give us that information, and that's what I mean about pushing us in the right direction to make sure we're not. We could go down the rabbit hole on something and waste our time, but it's that engagement that we get from individuals like you that make our jobs a lot easier.
There's no shortage of suggestions that the trucking carriers will give you.
Well,
the problem is selecting the right ones.
Well, that's true. Well, you always have come with some very important and interesting ideas, so appreciate that.
Thanks, George.
Is there anything else you want to kind of share with our listeners out there?
No, this has been great. Like if you'd told me when I was a young fellow that I'd be finishing my professional life in the trucking industry, I never would have thought it. I shouldn't have been surprised. I mean, I spent the majority of my policing days. I spent the majority of it working with industry and law enforcement towards bettering the safety of the highways. So. The fact that I'm finishing in trucking, started in trucking, wedged in between with some policing, it's been a good haul. It's been a good run.
It's been a good run. All right. Now you can take some time off. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you very much again, Rob. That's it for this episode of Driving Forward. Please follow us on our social media feeds and check us out on our website at www.sastrucking.com. All right. Take care and drive safe.